Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tonight, I have something extra special for you. Our guest is Rachel Ruusma, caretaker for her husband, Mart Ruusma, who had kidney cancer before he passed, and kidney cancer advocate for groups like Kidney Can and the Judy Nicholson Kidney Cancer Foundation. In fact, this past August 8th and 9th, Rachel and I were paired together advocating to Senator Todd Young, Representative Sparks, Mervyn, and Greg Pence from our home state of Indiana. Her husband, Mart, had stage 4 renal cell carcinoma. Mart was diagnosed prior to meeting Rachel in 2015 and was told his encapsulated kidney would have to be removed. This was a serious adjustment for Mart because he felt he was very healthy and he was the kind of guy that worked out all the time. Mart actually had 2 bouts with kidney cancer. After the treatment originally, Mart appeared to be clear. He met Rachel and they were married on June 17th, 2017. The second time the cancer returned in a metastatic form on his bones and in the lower part of his spine. Mart could no longer work out, or lift his special needs daughter, Maya. Mart did not give up. He switched to a vegan diet and did other healthy things. He underwent radiation and immunotherapy, and he and Rachel used to advocate together for kidney cancer patients and their caretakers. One of the other things that Mart did to help extend his life was to become part of a clinical trial at the IU Simon Cancer Center located in Indianapolis, Indiana, with Dr. Kevin Lee. Mart unfortunately passed on January 30th, 2022 at the age of 15. To honor Mart and his struggles, Rachel has continued to advocate for kidney cancer patients everywhere. She continues to work with and advocate for kidney cancer patients and caregivers. I was very moved when I first heard her story, and tonight I believe that you will be too. Please give a warm welcome to our friend, Rachel Ruusma. Rachel, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me on tonight, Jim. It was a pleasure serving with you with Kidney Can, the way that you present the information to the Senator's representatives and your dedication to raising the funds is just remarkable.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Did I state everything correctly in the introduction?
Yes, except for I think when you said Mark's age, I heard it as 15. He was 51 when he passed.
Okay, I stand corrected.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about where you grew up, your education, and your employment experiences.
I was originally born in Champaign, Illinois. When I was 11, we moved to the Dallas, Texas area, and that's where I spent a great deal of my life. At the end of 2004, my 4 kids and we moved to Indianapolis. I was working with a major company then, and I continued to work with that company here. And we just found the area to be calmer than Dallas and less hot. And we've stayed in the area. I have a bachelor's degree in business, and my work currently is more focused in a project management field as well as assisting people financially.
Okay. Please tell us a little bit about your family. I read that you have children and grandchildren.
I do. I have 4 of my own children, ages, I hate saying the ages part, but they get older, I don't. They are ages 24 to 31, with the boy being the oldest and then 3 girls. And Mart was my 3rd marriage. So my 2nd marriage, I have a stepson and a stepdaughter. And now that stepson just gave me a grandson just 3 weeks ago. I'm so excited. And then I have Maya for my marriage with Mart. And then I have 2 granddaughters from one of my daughters, my own, and they are ages 8 and 5. And we are going to Disney on Monday for the first time.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah, should be great.
And so the grandkids really help you get through those hard times. and stuff. They keep you smiling, and they just brought so much joy to Mart and I. And I remember in particular, like one time, or a couple of times actually, this happened. The granddaughters often would stay with us on a weekend. And the one, when she was a toddler, she liked to have grandpa stand up on the fireplace with her and sing songs. So I have the cutest videos from those memories. It's such a treasure.
So you have a little performer in the group.
I do. And
How
now
about that?
my daughter Maya that was Mart's daughter, and she is severely cerebral palsy, and so she doesn't walk or talk or anything. She's 14 now, but she has the best smile ever. She's happy, just giggly, just fun girl. And she was living. Mart was truly miraculous because she lived with us and those last few years, and he just took care of her. I mean, the feeding tube and the meds and everything, he just stayed committed to her. And it's just amazing how your mind can push you through, even when you're going through your own trials, to love and care for others.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Mart. When and where did you meet him?
Mart and I actually met online, and we met, I want to say it was 2015, 2016, somewhere around there. And at the time, we were both good point in life, good relationship, but it came to be while we were still dating and stuff that we found out that the cancer had come back. And I knew he had cancer the first time. And when we found out that the cancer was back, we agreed to fight together, and we knew we could do it best as partners. And so Mart at the time, I mean, he was working out 5 days a week. He counted his protein. I mean, he did meal prep every Sunday. He knew what vegetables, what meat he was eating. He was the healthiest he'd been in his life. And the way we knew, for those that are currently, have kidney cancer out there, the way that we knew it come back, it started with pain in the leg. And he had an old high school injury. So at first he's just thinking it's that injury. And it kept getting worse. He goes to the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh, it's probably a slip disc, and gives him pain medication. Well, at the time I'd come over and was visiting him, and we were out on the deck, and he comes out, and he can't stand up for a couple minutes. He's leaning on things. And I'm like, this is more than a slip disc, because when you're on pain medication, it shouldn't be getting this much worse. And so his sister took him to the emergency room, and I stayed with his mother. And the x-ray showed that the kidney cancer had come back and was there on the lower spine. They had then admitted him to the hospital to control the pain. And while you're in the hospital, you can't have a PET scan. You have to do it as outpatient due to whatever insurance regulations are going on. And so what they did was start to just manage that pain. Once he got out of the hospital, then he had the PET scan, which that next appointment showed that not only was in the lower spine, but it had spread all over the spine, the rib cages, more the back of the rib cages, the hips, the arm. And then the very next thing was an MRI of the brain. And that came back showing it was a spot over the first layer of your brain, not on the brain itself, but over that layer. So it was a lot of sudden hits, but we were determined to fight. And did not see Mart get down very much. He tried to stay optimistic. As we knew from his doctor, and his doctor and him were about the same age, similar interest, very close from the prior time that he had had the cancer. And so his doctor himself had trouble talking about it, but he had told us that his prognosis was scary, and that the hope was there was sunitinib, but the best hope was just if he got on a clinical trial. Otherwise, he'd have to go on sunitinib until he can get on the clinical trial. And so we all, the doctor and us, started looking for clinical trials. And there was one that was going to start at IU Health soon. And so he contacted that doctor, but that was still waiting to be approved by the pharmaceutical companies. So the start time kept getting extended. And of course, once they found that spot near the brain, they're not wanting to continue to wait much longer to start treatment. And so we went to Fort Wayne and saw a specialist. It was a clinical trial I found myself. For anyone who doesn't know, you can go online and research clinical trials. It's not the easiest things, but there are foundations like Judy Nicholson Kidney Cancer Foundations or other of us that will help you do so. Or your doctor can help you find one.
Let me stop you there for a minute. So our audience understands. If you look in the comments to the original broadcast on Facebook, I have listed all sorts of things that involved Rachel and Mart, and that would include the things about Kidney Can and the Judy Foundation, their YouTube video, and these government sites that can help you find clinical trials. So what Rachel's talking about, if you want to drill down a little further, that information is all in the comments to the broadcast. Some of it will be streaming across the banners that are going across your screen during the course of the broadcast as well. So, you know, we try to educate a little bit if we can.
Oh, that's excellent.
When did you first learn about his prior experiences? I have him as being originally diagnosed with kidney cancer in 2015. Is that correct?
Yes.
And then I have him diagnosed a second time. You mentioned the bones in his back, his ribs, his brain. I have that at 2017. Would that likewise be correct?
Yes, it was March or April of 2017.
Okay. When did you get engaged?
We got engaged soon after that, after we found out the battle that was coming forward, and we decided to get married prior to, and it was very quick turnaround that we got married. Thankfully, his sister and his family, great help getting us, helping us put that together so that we could be married to fight this together. And we wanted to get married, of course, before he would start any type of treatment, not knowing what treatment would look like. And, you know, it did take some time for him to get on treatment. Even it was after we got married before it started because of the clinical trial waiting time.
Okay. I have the date as June 17th, 2017.
Yes.
Do I have the right date?
Yes.
Okay. You were talking about finding a clinical trial. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Yeah, so we went to Fort Wayne to the clinical trial. Loved the doctor, agreed to do some extra studies, etc., for them. And then on our way back, we get the phone call that insurance will not cover it. And on clinical trials, yes, the medication may be covered, but there's still scans and etc. that go through insurance. And so that was one time I saw Mart really break down because he had that hope. We went back and we discussed changing insurance, etc. But in the meantime, I happened to call one of the nurses over the program at IU and say, by any chance, has this started? And she called Mart 2 days later. She'd been off that day, and said that the trial had started the week before, but they thought we were doing Fort Wayne. So lo and behold, he got in this trial, and this trial was under Rachel Peely, who happened to get extra funding for research by the works of Kidney Can as a raising funds. And so Mart had success with this trial for about 2 years, but one thing we had learned from Dr. Peely on research he was doing with mice to try to find out why immunotherapy worked for some and it didn't work for others, that what he was finding at that time was they did better on low protein overall. And Mart and I we're both Christians, and we just kept feeling like we kept hearing plant-based just come up, different discussions, different things area. So we decided to go plant-based while he was on this clinical trial. And we did that for about 2 years. So as I said, this is a man who counted protein. I mean, he believed in meat and that protein, and he all of a sudden just made that change. And it ended up being a good thing too, because it gave him something like looking for the recipes or researching some new ways or new things to eat, gave him something to put his mind to besides just the cancer. And, you know, just the new joy of maybe cooking some new recipes or meals was nice.
Okay. You've talked to us a little bit about some of the changes that Mart made as a result of his second diagnosis. Were there other steps that you and Mart took to try and fight the kidney cancer? I know you went to a vegan diet. Did you do anything else?
As far as it was important for him to get up, I learned that to combat the being tired, it takes getting up, moving around. So he tried to make it a goal to get up and go sit outside for at least, 15 minutes for the day or something, or move around. And we got a puppy, which got him up and active more and stuff. We used humor together and stuff. So we had this joke, and it just humor makes a huge difference. When we were dating, we were Christmas shopping, and he kept picking on me. And so I told him, you know what I want for Christmas? I want a taser, so when you're picking on me, I can tase you. So every time he would have to go for radiation or something, I would say, Mart, if you would have just let me tase you, you would not need radiation and you wouldn't have all these tumors. And so we kept that going. Or every time he would go to an appointment, and COVID, of course, came in during these 5 years and times. So there were times I was just on the appointment virtually and stuff. He would hold up and he would be at it, the appointment. And I would always ask, did you get a shot in the butt? And he would say no. And I was like, well, it's probably not going to work then or something. And we just used humor, like I said, trying to live life too and enjoy things. We did the last year or so, we did some traveling. We went to Denver, went to Florida, and just trying to create those memories. I think that's the most important thing.
Okay. Tell us what a day was like for yourself as a caretaker for your husband. What sort of things did you do for him?
So my role, Mart was very fortunate that he did not really get side effects on the various drugs that he was on, other than high blood pressure. Even when he went through radiation, he hardly ever had the side effects, other than, the hemoglobin lowering and, lower energy, or maybe some headaches now and then. So I didn't have to do as much as I know a lot of caregivers do. A lot of my role was I did the research. I watched his scans. I looked at the scan results myself. He never did. I always did the comparison of his lab work results. He would bring me the prior one, and I would look at the current, see if maybe we needed to adjust them in the diet to help, increase and give him more energy, or to raise any numbers on there. I would also was the one, and I think this is very important as the caregiver, when he would seem like he was giving up almost, or not really doing anything and enjoying life, just kind of, in the recliner watching TV or something, or he would stop focusing on making sure he had his healthy smoothie for the day or whatever it was. I had that conversation with him and said, okay, you're just doing what the doctors had you do. Let's see what else we can do. And we would work on a new plan together. And he was very, very receptive and always appreciated when I would do that. It's not an easy conversation to have with your loved one, but we don't want them to give up either. And sometimes they can get in their own slump. Another thing is I knew I could tell because I was with him so much. I could see the things that might happen or change and let the doctors know that Mart himself may not notice. Like there was a point where he started losing his sense of smell, or you know, I may have to say, hey, it's been a year since we've done a brain scan. Can we do a brain MRI? Or it's been a while, you know, something like that. And then also, I spoke up when I noticed that he was having some difficulties with the anxiety with the scans, etc. I was not afraid to talk to his doctor about seeing a psychologist, maybe to give him some information. And there were actually oncology psychologists, and Mart was able to go a couple times, and that gave him great help. One of the things that she taught him was to look at the cancer as his roommate. It may not be a roommate you want, but they're there, and they're going to be there, and just kind of adapt to that mentality on it. So I was basically help fight with him. That was our partnership.
Okay. The other thing that I noticed that you did, Rachel, is you did a lot of independent research.
Yes.
Can you talk to us a little bit about your experiences with that?
Yes. So I think it's important that it's somebody else that's doing the research, because there's so much outdated information out there on the internet right now. In the 5 years that Mart had the cancer come back, we saw so many different drugs or different therapies come available during that time period. And so I was able to connect with, or we were able to connect with, like the Judy Nicholson Kidney Cancer Foundation, which I'm now a board member of, and have been for a few years. KCAN, a lot of those put information out there on the most recent studies or information that's out there so that you can keep aware of what's going on. But it was also a lot of research and finding out how to manage the whole, you know, cancer process and what we needed to be doing at the time. So
Okay.
symptoms, the lab results are now a lot easier to understand. It can be overwhelming when you first see the sheet of all the lab tests that they take, but often now on the website for the doctor's office, or you can go on WebMD or whatever it may be, and you'll just click and it opens up each one and lets you the information so you kind of understand what you're looking at. So again, because if you kind of have a basis of, say their iron's low, then you know maybe there's certain foods that can help boost that, and you're not just relying on whatever doctor may say, or just, you know, going with the low energy and try to combat it yourself.
Okay. Talk to us about some of the advocacy work that you and Mart did together. For example, I found a video from the Judy Nicholson Kidney Cancer Foundation. They had some kind of a meeting over the 13th to the 15th of October. I found it on YouTube. Can you talk to us about some of the advocacy work that you and Mart did together?
Yes. So it started with Dr. Peely. Dr. Feely and was so happy with like the results Mart was getting on his trial, Mart's positive attitude. When we were doing the plant-based and on a clinical trial, there was a period of time, well, for the majority of time, that he was like considered as healthy as cancer patient because his lab results were good. And so with his positive attitude and the way he was, Dr. Peely started asking Mart to get involved. And the first thing we got involved with was the Elk Club. And so a photographer came out, did photo shoot with us and everything, and they wrote an article in a bulletin. And when he went and spoke in front of the Elk Club members, because they raised money for kidney cancer research as well. And then that program that we created then went and they traveled around the nation with that. And then Dr. Peely is a part of Judy Nicholson as well, or one of the people they speak with. And he asked Mart if he wanted to speak for them. And so we went to Jacksonville, Florida, in December. You know, hate to leave Indianapolis and in December to go to Florida, but we did it. And Mart spoke there as well. And he just had this wonderful knack of just really connecting with the people, I think, and inspiring them. And then sometime after that, I was asked to be on the board of Judy Nicholson Foundation, which I do, which Judy Nicholson Foundation, their purpose is to help provide the information and the education and the support for the patients and the caregivers. And so I continued to work with them. And then also, we were asked in 2019, before COVID, to go to Washington, D.C. with KCAN or KidneyCan and help to speak to senators and representatives to raise the funds for research for kidney cancer and for cancer overall. So we went to Capitol Hill, we did that, and spoke with Pence and others there, and enjoyed getting to see our beautiful Capitol. And it's amazing how receptive the people are. And it was really interesting timing because right before we went, Mart had just had an MRI of the brain, and the tumor that was near that brain had disappeared, and it had worked, the combination of the radiation and that treatment. And I was able to show that to the senators and representatives that, look, what you're funding is working. You know, progress is being made from what you're doing. And I think that's kind of nice for them to hear, you know, sometimes. And so, and then from there, COVID hit. So the future, again, the conversations with the senators and representatives was done over the phone after that. And Mart continued to do several of those. And then I did as well. Since Mart has passed, I've continued with KidneyCan as far as the advocacy, as we did together a few months here ago, Jim. I also continue to be on the board with Judy Nicholson Kidney Cancer Foundation. And then I just went last month to Italy for the International Kidney Cancer Conference. And that was a group of the kidney cancer organizations from all over the world, a few members from them, that we gathered together in Italy and sat for about 3 days in various meetings and learned what is going on with kidney cancer and kind of how we can help each other out and what kind of information we can get out to the patients and caregivers and better serve you. It's very informative to sit at dinner with people from, you know, South Africa and Mexico and Portugal, and just hear the variants on what their issues on having access to drugs or maybe targeted treatment, or in one particular area, the patients, they actually have to, there's no appointments that are set. You just go sit there all day, and eventually somebody calls your name. And I can't imagine how these patients that are probably having some complications, you know, are sitting there all day do the things. But I think it's important that we get involved and continue to fight. The cancer has taken my husband's life, and I look at it as a way to continue to stomp back on that kind of cancer and try to help others to enjoy their time that they have and create those memories.
Okay. I just want to point out to our audience that things that Rachel's talking about, the links to the KidneyCan website, the links to Judy Nicholson's website are all streaming across the page. And now the link to the YouTube video that they did on behalf of Judy Nicholson Kidney Cancer Foundation, a link to that is streaming across the page as well. Also, the links to finding clinical trials and those kinds of things, those are also going across the page right now. And one more thing, the conference at Lake Orta in Italy with the board of directors. That is likewise streaming across the page. So as I said, if you want to drill down on what's going on with our friend Rachel, there's plenty of information in the comments. And if you're a kidney cancer patient, or you're a caretaker, or you have a family member or a friend that has kidney cancer and you need more information, that would be a terrific place to start. Okay. Rachel, one of the things that I noticed that I see repeated that are kind of a theme with you is about the importance of nutrition for kidney cancer patients. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes. So while you're under treatment, or even before, you have cancer attacking your body, you have drugs that are probably attacking your body, and you want to come back at it with the ultimate variety of the foods and the healthier foods and nutrients. And it may be supplements that you need, even that, so that you have the best energy, or the person has the best energy, and with all, not just your energy, but your body has the ingredients it needs to help fight as well. And I think sometimes when we get diagnosis, it's easy just to take the pill, when there's a variety of other things we can do between the nutrition or exercise, or even just being out in the sun, so that it helps, lift our moods, that we can do. And your doctors, often they have access to nutritionists, as well as there's various, books out there, as well as fighting cancer and the right foods.
Okay. I have, by your suggestion, that Mart actually passed on January 28th, 2022 at the age of 51.
Yes.
Do I have that correct?
You do.
Okay. What was his condition like before he passed? Was he in hospice care? Was he in hospice care at home? And what did you do as a caretaker to try and help him?
On January 14th, Mart was told that he had 3 to 6 months to live. He asked if there was any other drugs they could try, and the doctor said at that point that the tumors had taken over enough that there's maybe 1% chance that anything would work or something, but there really wasn't, and it was better to just enjoy life without, say, being on medication that's going to perhaps have side effects or whatever it may be, to just enjoy the time. So Mart did well. He thanked his doctor at the time for it, and he even made it a point to make his doctor laugh before he left the room. And the first thing we said to each other almost was, we're so glad we got almost 5 years, because in the beginning, if you remember the first of my story, the doctor told us that the prognosis was scary, and he didn't give us a time frame, but that was enough words. We got almost 5 years, and we saw various drugs become available, in clinical trials proven, and there become more hope for kidney cancer patients during that time, which was remarkable. And Mart had plans that day to spend time with my daughter. I was actually at a conference at the time, and they had plans. They had his favorite breakfast food, and they had a movie day and stuff. So just, relax and go into the movies. And from there, it was getting hospice set up, which it wasn't very long into that process that Mart started declining. It was literally on Sunday morning that I said, we have to have an uncomfortable conversation, because the social worker will come and she's going to ask, how do you want to be buried, cremated? And we had that conversation. He was fine. He'd made peace, and he was fine having that conversation, even though I wasn't. And he wanted to continue and discuss, what further, but I was, little bit at a time. But I wish I would have continued, and that would be my advice to anybody, is to have the conversation way before, because by that next day he had started to decline, and it started with him. He took his medicine, and I didn't catch him in time. I was like, Martin, it wasn't time to take your medicine, and started noticing mental decline where I had to take the medication and then distribute because he could no longer tell time. And then it quickly went to him not being able to use his phone or a remote control, or just mentally. And there's various stages from there that it goes through. They get anxious, etc. And so I kept with hospice. Hospice nurse would come in and she would monitor things because of Maya. I had and Mart both. I had my own equipment, so I was monitoring. I checked the blood pressure machine when she thought her blood pressure machine was too cold and not working right, or when the oximeter wasn't working. I grabbed Maya's oximeter and checked an oxygen level and stuff. And I finally got mine to come up where it was low enough one day, and we brought in oxygen. And literally they're supposed to set up the oxygen. They didn't set it up for me, and here I'm needing to get them hooked up. And luckily his nephew is a nurse who is able to get on video call with me and help me connect him to oxygen. By that Friday, we knew enough that time was coming, and I started contacting friends of his. And that Saturday, I couldn't have asked for a more beautiful, wonderful day, because one of his best friends since he was early 20s drove all the way from Florida and was there by 9:30 in the morning, and got to see Mart. And then I called some of his other great friends who were coming over, and I even called one that we'd seen when we were in Denver who also has cancer, just to let them know before I put on Facebook that Mart was declining. I wanted to let them know first. And it so happened they were in Indianapolis at the time, so they came right over. So that Saturday, the day before he passed, Mart's friends sat around telling stories. I played his favorite beachy music on the radio and for him to listen to, and he just kind of sat there nodding his head and smiled a few times, they said. And then his person he wanted to see was my mom. And just to note that Mark's mom had passed the August before, and his dad had passed when he was younger. And my mom got there about 6 o'clock-ish, and he looked up at her and gave her a big smile. And he just, declined, and he had passed by a little after 2 o'clock the next morning.
Okay. You had a celebration for Mart's life on February 19th, 2022. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, the way that Saturday went, I wanted to recreate that. Mart wanted to be cremated. We had just, like I said, buried his mom in August, and I don't think we were quite ready to do the funeral home thing, so we decided just to have it at our house. We have a nice setup for entertaining, and I just wanted people to be able to talk and share stories. And so we set up the pictures and etc. and everything where people just could share their memories and share food together and celebrate our life and celebrate the memories of him.
Okay. You have made a point to me that you are continuing to work with and advocate for kidney cancer patients and their caregivers. Can you discuss with us any future advocacy efforts of yours that are coming up, things you're looking forward to?
Yes. I will continue to be the advocate for the Senate representatives for KCAN, but I continue to be on the board with Judy Nicholson Foundation as we continue to grow. And one thing we do is we have symposiums in various cities. We just had one in Atlanta, but we also have webinars pretty regularly that inform. It may be a doctor that's speaking, or we have even on the YouTube station a nutritionist that comes on there and talks as well. So it's continued to find that information. I also, with Jayla on our team, we have a caregivers call periodically as well. Caregivers can call in and talk to us. And it's been interesting lately that we've found that the spouses are helping. The kidney cancer patient themselves are recommending their spouses to get in connected with the caregiver groups and stuff. So we continue to do that. I myself continue to look for ways to help. I think mental health is a big thing with cancer when you're diagnosed, and just dealing with that trauma. I'm always available to talk with other caregivers or other as they go through the trials and stuff, or what to look for or what to do, as we get hit with these hard, or just somebody that, understands how hard it is to live in that almost fear all the time that you live in, not knowing moment to moment what's going to change in their health.
Okay. Talk to us a little bit about Maya. I understand that she had a spine infusion recently at Peyton Manning Hospital. How is Maya doing?
So Maya, after Mart passed, she lived with me, and her mom and I have agreed to share custody of Maya. And I'm probably more on the medical aspect of it too, and the knowledge. So I do continue to do and have always done a lot of research for her on her medical or equipment she needs and etc. But we did have to make the decision to place Maya in a wonderful home nearby because I couldn't go to work and then have somebody to care for her. It was just me at that point. And so she does live in a facility now nearby. But her spine, part of the cerebral palsy is they often get scoliosis, curvature of the spine, and Maya's had got to almost 95%. And at that point, I believe that it made it harder for her breathing. It's harder on your GI system overall. She's in her wheelchair and she's leaning all the time to the right side so much. And so it was overall difficult for her and for people caring for her. And with the decision, her orthopedic doctor as well as her pulmonologist agreed it was the right time to have this surgery. She just had this surgery, I believe last week. I'm losing track of days here on there. But she had to have pretty much everything except her neck is now fused with a rod. We were so blessed and fortunate that this surgery was supposed to take 6 to 7 hours, which is a very long time for anybody to be on anesthesia. And this doctor was able to do it within about 4.5 hours. And
wow.
Yeah, which is just phenomenal. She's come through well. She would still be, we think, in a pain state. Maya's never going to really tell you she's in pain very much, or not a fussy kid to begin with. So the only complications we've really had is just the buildup of, phlegm and her not being able to cough it up or having the muscle capacity to do that. And of course, she's in a lot of pain. Nobody wants to cough right after having a spinal surgery. But I think we're seeing an improvement in overall. This is going to give her a better quality of life. So instead of when she's in a wheelchair, she'll actually be sitting up instead of leaning all the way over sideways, or, us trying to prop her up with pillows and everything else. And this should give her the ability to hold her head up and look around a little more and see things. So I'm very excited to see how this comes as we're a few more weeks out of this, where she can be up in her chair more and everything.
Okay. My friend Rachel, if nothing else, is very, very resilient. And I noticed that you have had some of your own health challenges recently. Can you talk about the foot surgery?
Yes. So we would sometimes joke with Mart because he was the one with cancer, but I was always seeming to have surgery. So I've had 2 foot surgeries, one this past July, and one the year before. And with this last one being very extensive, I've had multiple sinus surgeries. I was in a severe car accident when I was 20 years old, and I still, 30 years later, still have some surgeries from that, sinus related, etc. And so it seemed like we would go back and forth on caring for each other. But now I'm on my own, and so it's kind of different. But yeah, I had about 3 procedures and 1 on the foot. And so this aging thing is never fun.
Yeah, yeah. Your Uncle Jim could tell you about that getting old stuff. Absolutely. Do you have any final statements or remarks that you would like to make before we close the broadcast for the evening?
I would just like to invite anybody else who may be interested in serving on a board. You may want to advocate for kidney cancer. As Jim said, that information is going across the screen, and you can reach out to any of those organizations. They're always looking, or willing to talk to you, or if you need additional information, just to reach out. Help. That's what these organizations are for. You don't have to do this on your own. I can tell you that when Mart went to the first symposium, Judy Nicholson symposium, the sigh of relief that he had, you could just see him, just the relief to be amongst people that got it. Because family is great, but to be there and to actually talk to people that are going through what you're going through and really understand the CT scan anxiety, or the feeling yucky, or the fear, it's just a lot better when you have others to go through it with.
Okay. Rachel, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with us and being so generous with your time. I wish you great success in your continued advocacy for kidney cancer patients and their caregivers. And the next time that Kidney Can decides they want to have an advocacy event, I hope you and I are in Washington, D.C. somewhere, and that we actually get a chance to look Senator Braun in the eye and ask him, where he stands on funding for kidney cancer patients.
Absolutely.
All right. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. I'm going to let you go now, Rachel. I have some announcements I have to make about future broadcasts. And as I said, you've been very generous with your time. Thank you so much for coming on and educating us and talking to us tonight about kidney cancer and your experiences.
You're welcome. Good night.
All right. Good night, Rachel. We'll talk soon. All right, folks. That's our broadcast for tonight with Rachel Ruusma. Wow, what a story, huh? A few future broadcasts coming up. Tomorrow, an international broadcast. We're talking with Alistair Dawson. He's a London radiologist. He donated a kidney to one of his former teachers. That's at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. The replay of that broadcast, I'll either replay it the following Friday or the Friday after Thanksgiving, trying to give you guys a break and not do a new broadcast the day after Thanksgiving. On the 18th of November, tentatively, we are scheduled to talk with Teresa Diggs. Teresa is a heart transplant patient that is experiencing issues with her kidney. She's currently in the hospital. So, that's why the broadcast is tentative. She may be starting dialysis very soon. It's up to Teresa if she wants to go forward. And of course, if she needs time, I'm happy to reschedule. We'll get something else worked out, but we'll take all the steps that we can to try and get her on and get her story. And of course, she'll be looking for a kidney transplant. So we'll want to help Teresa with that. We are replaying the Allie Dawson broadcast, as I said, on the 25th of November. On the 2nd of December, Dr. Steineke is on. She's an infectious disease specialist. We're going to talk to her about her profession and the things that she does. On the 9th of December, we're talking to Kristen McCall. She is a two-time kidney transplant recipient. Should be interesting. On the 16th of December, I'm really fired up about this one. On the 16th of December, Sharon Simpson Rouse will be on with us. She's the founder of Kindness for Kidneys International. We're going to talk about her advocacy work and her own kidney story. Be dynamite stuff. You don't want to miss that one. I'm giving you Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve off, the Fridays before Christmas and New Year's Day for obvious reasons. We start back again on the 6th of January 2023 with Karen Edwards. Karen is a friend of mine from Kidney Solutions, our sponsor. She is a kidney patient who is seeking a kidney, so she has a very interesting kidney story. Again, that's a no miss type thing. On the 20th of January, we're talking to Juan Beck. Juan was recently transplanted. He is a true crusader. He is a true kidney warrior. His kidney story reads like the book of Job. So very interesting kidney story. You're going to want to check that out. On the 27th of January, we're going to talk to my friend Alex Jewell, kidney transplant patient and stellar kidney advocate. I've got broadcasts scheduled in February. I have broadcasts starting the schedule in March. I have a couple of weekends in March. I'm going to be gone, one for the National Kidney Foundation and one for the PKD Foundation. And I'll start scheduling broadcasts in April. I'll be sure and keep you updated on what's going on with all of that. So I just want to say I appreciate you guys watching and taking so much time. And I will see you next week, one way or another. So you have a good week and we'll talk soon.